and all the other people that are on the invite list to do the
Division water rights.
Yeah, Division water rights.
There's a bunch of
DNR, everybody's gonna be there to do it.
DEQ. And DEQ's gonna be there, I think.
Well, they have a new DEQ, and I can't remember what his name is, because Kim's gone. Yeah, anyway, so Brandon and I are gonna do that on Thursday, do a Pine Valley tour, meet Mark Winch out there as well. So, there's that. I think what else is going on? Oh, I got your invite on the Forest Service meeting. You just forwarded it.
Oh, from George?
Yeah, HB 48.
That's in Cedar, is that tomorrow?
No, it's not till April 16th, I think.
Or is it 16th?
I thought that's what it said.
April 16th at 1:30.
Oh, yep. Right there. At the Cedar City office.
The Forest Service office.
Yeah. So yeah, who do you want me to send to George to have them?
Well, right now, I don't have anything else on my schedule, but you should probably send it to all three of us, and Kevin needs an invite. Or he's feeling left out. He missed out on the conversation, so.
Always volunteering if he's not paying
Yeah,
attention.
yeah.
Okay.
I did have one more update / question. With the guys that came down and flew for the coyotes, they just came the one day. I was gonna try to get them back a few more times.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna come back at least one more time.
They need to come back and do some more.
Need to do it right now while there's snow on.
Yes, where they're easy to see and not in so much wind. Do we wanna build some of the producers for that? Or what's your thoughts there?
Well, everybody I've talked to, I told them they need to put money in the game.
And everybody's happy to do it.
That's what I thought. So I don't know if you bill it, or if you ask for donations, or.
Do we wait till they fly and then?
Have we those invoices before?
I don't think we've ever done that before.
But it's a great program to turn $250 into $1,000 over at the coyote.
Agreed. I think most of them.
I mean, we can, as long as they don't swear it, how much.
I think we wait till they fly and we can tell them, hey,
Find out what the stuff is.
they really good shot and it's money on you, and then send the bill after that.
That's what I would do.
I know a few of these done, so we'll.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything from your office?
No, they go on.
Richard? Anything else?
I did want to say though, congrats to your office for the trial last week. Good job. That was a hard fought battle. Proud of you guys.
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
There's probably more.
Three, I was gonna say 3 times, yeah. So good job on that.
Okay. Senator Curtis and the crew, looks like you arrived. Welcome, come on up.
Oh, we don't want to interrupt your meeting.
No, I think you're part of the meeting, so come on up.
I actually really liked watching.
There's the A-team.
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner, looks like I need to go get my towel.
Well, no, you're good.
Good morning, how are you?
Good.
Bill the crew, come on up.
Ginger?
I'm Ginger McMullen, Court Auditor.
Hi, Adam Clark.
Paralegal.
Bill nice, Bill.
Met Jeff already.
Hi, Lori Chow.
Yeah. Come on,
Where was I?
Anywhere
You can come sit up here with us if you want, or you can sit right here in front. We can have you see right here.
there, he's right there.
Okay.
Right there. Hey, you want to take a photo first?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it right now.
Then we can relax. In case we get all fired up.
we all just want to gather in front of the line right here? Congratulations. Yeah. That speaks really well. Okay. You get in the middle. You get, I don't know about that, but I want to be with him. All right.
The wise man.
1, 2, 3.
Go for it.
It's a nice picture. That is a nice picture.
1, 2. Thank you.
You do Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
You lived in time.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we'll just turn it over to you, if you have whatever you want to share with us. We do have some questions you may want to ask too in a minute, but go right ahead.
Thank you. May I introduce my team?
Yeah, please.
So Lori is my state director. She served for 7 years as my state director in the House, and we're both enjoying expanding from the 3rd district to the whole state. And I will note, this is the first full week, tell me if I'm wrong, since I was sworn in, and this is where we came. So just point that out.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm so honored, thank
Yeah,
you.
well, we're really,
County area.
yeah, we're so excited because we've obviously been able to build the relationships in the other part of the state. We aspire to the same types of things, and so we're here to learn, and we'll share a few things with you. Jeff, we hired Jeff in the first of the year, and Jeff is our outreach person for this part of the state, and he is awesome. Lives in Richfield, and you'll see him more frequently, sadly, than you'll see me. But we actually talk pretty close to once a week, where that whole purpose of meeting with him and his contemporaries is to relay what he's heard and seen during the last week back to me, and then let me convey what I'm learning, that he can come. And anytime you see him, you're welcome to say, hey, please pass this message, and he will personally do it. It's not like it's going through a bunch of filters, and he'll get back to me that next week. And then,
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Yeah, so do you know about the 5 county meetings? Because sometimes the representatives come and can report to 5 county. I know you probably did the 6, but do you know about 5
Yeah,
county?
yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Do you get those invites?
I do, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect, okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Brian.
There it is.
There it is.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
And then we brought some BC team, Adam and Dylan, and they're among many priorities. Their priorities to go back and tell everybody in BC what they see, document the trip. They'll do some social media, and we want to brag about you all and the things that we see here. And as you know, we're going to take not just this meeting, but we will see some things out in Beaver County the rest of the day. And I would love to do a couple of things in the time, and we'll just kind of see how you all want to use the time. Give you a legislative update from kind of what I'm working on. Jeff has articulated, we want to know your 3 priorities. He's articulated them to me, so I'd like to kind of report on those as well. And then hear what's on your list and your agenda. And given that, Chair President, Chair, what's your? Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, we'll let you drive the agenda, as far as which order and where you want to go.
Be in charge.
Yeah.
Pam is in charge, just kidding. I think you should give your update first, and we'll just follow that line. That's how you just kind of laid it out, that's great.
That's perfect. I've described to a lot of people where the country is at is what I call it's a stop-the-car moment. And what I mean by that is I think last November in the election, the American people, if you've ever been on a family trip and your kids are so bad, you say, we're stopping the car. I think the country had a stop-the-car moment.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, what was happening with inflation, what was happening at the border, what was happening, right, and all the things where America said, no, stop the car. And we elected a disruptor, and we did, right? There's no 2 ways about it, and he is disrupting. And I think there's an element of uncertainty and even pain in some of the disruption. But I will tell you from my perspective that for decades in Washington, D.C., we've said we would fix things, And we've tried to do it without pain and without disruption, and we have failed. And so we are spending $2 trillion a year or more than we're bringing in revenue. How long can that last? And if you were doing that as a county, it wouldn't end well, and it's not gonna end well. And so a lot of what people are experiencing in the layoffs and you know, we hear all the time, you know, this funding that we had, and you're probably seeing some things at the county level that are uncertain now, are dealing with because it's kind of a shock to the system, but the system needed a shock. Now, all of that said, I think one of my roles in all of this is to be a little bit of lotion on the wound, because what's coming out of Washington DC is sporadic. We're tariffing, we're not tariffing, we're tariffing, we're not tariffing. And I think one of the roles I can play for you is, okay, let's tamp that down, what's really there, what you have to worry about, what you don't have to worry about. I think the president in his like, I got a little bit of time, and I got a lot I want to do, is kind of taken some steps and then had to re-step a little bit. The courts are restraining just a little bit. He doesn't want to be restrained, I don't have to tell you that, right? He just wants to go.
Well, and I don't like the fact that the courts can restrain a lot of these things.
Well, so I will tell you, Commissioner, the good and the bad of that is, in a certain number of years, I don't know if it's 4 or 8 or 12, there will be somebody else in that seat.
Right.
And you may be really glad the courts.
True.
Does that make sense? And what really needs to happen is, this can't be the president only that fix this, is Congress. We need to step up and do our job. And many of the things the president is doing is because Congress has failed to do them. The cuts should have been us.
100%.
Right,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And so, part of all of this right sizing is to, in President Trump's strategy, is to force our hand to do our job. Does that make sense?
Agreed.
And so, that's kind of where some of the pain is in this, is, oh, it's hard to do my job. This is hard. And that's kind of what's being sifted out. And I think if we really want a long-term change, it can't be only the president, because the new president can come in and just undo very quickly. And there's no better example than the border.
Right.
It's just, we saw President Trump 8 years ago, and then President Biden 4 years ago, and then and it's just flipping back between presidencies, and we got to stop that. The ability of it to flip right back as soon as he's gone.
Right.
And that's
The Antiquities Act is
perfect.
It's a good example.
Yeah, really good example.
like a light switch.
Yeah, and so, from a legislative priority standpoint, let me just touch on a couple of things and then kind of go into your questions for me. I've got 4 main areas that I kind of specialize in. My committee assignments work well, and I think are really important back in the state, that the state relates to. So guess what, one of those is public lands.
We need to there.
And also, I know that's one of your priorities as well. So let me touch on that for just a minute. When I served in the House, I was on the Natural Resources Committee, which dealt with all of that. We're now really fortunate to have Representative Malloy and Representative Kennedy on that.
I was surprised that Kennedy got on there.
It's super important, and,
Yeah.
and he could be with his back, if that makes sense, of Congresswoman Malloy. And then over in the Senate, Mike Lee chairs the ENR Committee, Energy and Resources Committee, which is kind of the compatible one over there. Super important for the state to have him there. It's a really, really important place, and he's doing great work there. But in addition, some of it, not all of it, is split between another committee, EPW, Environment and Public Works, that I serve on. And particularly when it comes to permitting reform. So I'll kind of come back to that. Right now, I think it's fair to say there's a significant number of conversations in the delegation, and even with Secretary Burgum, about public lands, your situation here over Bear Years as well, about how we want to move forward. And I think we are incredibly well positioned to do something good. The question is, will we do something good for 4 years, or will we do something good permanently? And I can tell you there is pretty strong emphasis on, first and foremost, let's take care of this 4-year problem, right? My worry is that we'll all go, oh, that feels good, and 4 years later.
Forget to lock the
yeah,
door.
Yeah, 4 years later, we're back where we are. So, as we move forward, love all your feedback on that, and the other, relevant counties here in this area, and over in San Juan County and in the different areas. But I can tell you, kind of, with a little bit of a smile, 7 years ago when I went to Congress, I didn't know what public lands were, I didn't understand. We all thought we did, right? Well, immediately I'm in the thick of Bears Ears, and we're legislating for that. We have the Emory County legislation. As a result, I feel really comfortable in public lands 7 years later. Not only me, but my team back in Washington is really good, and here in the state as well. I don't think anybody understands public lands like Lori, my state director here in the state. So we have a really good team, I think, on that as well. And so love to stay close with you on that, and not just that issue, but anything related to either the ENR committee that Senator Lee serves on, or the EPW that I serve on, and some of your water issues too, that will fall under the EPW category where I can be super helpful. So that's category 1. Category number 2, I think we touched on earlier, but it's just incredibly important to you as well, and that's debt. And this problem of spending $2 trillion more. So I have a prediction to make, and we'll come back here in September and see if I'm right. But we just did this continuing resolution, and we kicked the can down to September, thinking that by September we will have done our job, done the budgets, and do things the way we're supposed to do. Mark my words, in September, we're gonna do another continuing resolution. We've done our constitutional job 4 times since 1974. So if we're honest, we have a broken system. And people say things like to us, well, if you just worked harder. So we stay at DC longer, right? And guess what? We still don't get it done. And the reason is, I believe there are some fundamental problems with the system that was put in place in 1974 that has yielded its right outcome 4 times since 1974. I think the last time was close to 25 years ago that we actually got our budget done and signed into law by the president. So as a result of that, I'm working on some legislation and trying to change people's paradigm that it's not about working harder, it's a broken system. So you can work as hard as you want on a broken system, and you're not gonna get it done. So I actually have legislation that I will be introducing to change how we budget, and take, what happens is, when we don't get our job done, only bad things happen. And that's primarily a shutdown, the continuing resolution, or an omnibus. All 3 of those are bad, right, and have a bad outcome. Well, that's where it's ended all but 4 times since 1974. The state, what I'm actually proposing is modeled after the state of Utah, which is basically, if they don't get their budget done, nothing bad happens, except for if they stay on last year's budget. What we've done over the years is we've tried to fix this problem, is we've tried to make it so painful that we will just do our job. Well, we don't do our job, and because it's so painful, we then vote around it. So basically what I'm proposing is, when we don't get an appropriation done, we stay on the current appropriation, we don't shut down, we don't go do the CR, we just have to live with what we lived with last year. Not so painful that we vote around it. So trying to get some momentum in that. The other thing I'd say on this topic is, if you do the math, you'll also see we're kind of fooling ourselves. And think of a pie. 2/3 of that pie is spent on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which we said we're not going to touch. The president said we're not going to touch. So that means you have 1/3 of the pie left. That 1/3 of the pie is $6 trillion in spending and $4 trillion of income. That's where we get the $2 trillion gap. Half of that $6 trillion is military. I think we all kind of agree right now, I think we're really uncomfortable. So you take half of that $6 trillion off, we take $3 trillion off, we get $3 trillion left to remove $2 trillion in spending. Can you imagine if your county budget, you had to take. Yeah, but we could fire everybody, and you haven't done it. And what that math means is, if we don't talk Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, we're fooling ourselves. We're not being honest. And we need to be more honest. So I'll, in the process right now, I'll putting together a Social Security, fix, and we'll be introducing that in a couple of months. And everybody who says, oh, you're just gonna take Social Security away from seniors is gonna come after me. But if we don't fix it, the Social Security.
fighting more, you know that.
I know they are, but if we're honest, seniors have more to lose if we don't fix it, and seniors are going to be okay, it's not gonna be okay for our kids. That's the generation, because we'll take care of the people, nobody's gonna take away benefits from people in retirement, but my 25-year-old can get out frank conversation and say, it's not gonna be what it is today, and here's how I propose we fix it. So that's category number 2. Category number 3 is a little bit more indirect for you than the others, and it's China, but it's also a big deal. I think our the 2 biggest long-term threats to the country are death in China and the aggression of China. And by the way, I love the Chinese people, I love the Chinese culture. It's not the Chinese people we have a problem with, it's their oppressive government. And so I've been so successful over the years. The best way to mark my success on China is that there was a arrest warrant for me over in China because of my legislation pushing back on China. I know, what a badge of honor, what a and so that's the 3rd category. And the 4th also is very, very relevant for your county, and that's energy policy. If you know me, you know I'm not afraid to talk climate, and some people say, well, why do you talk climate? And the reality of it is, if you don't talk climate, you're not talking energy. They're intertwined. And what you're doing right here is so exciting for what I call an energy future that has 3 characteristics. It's affordable, it's reliable, and it's clean. And this is the reality. If you don't want to talk climate, that's fine, but the market is driving those 3 things. The market wants to buy energy that's affordable, and it's reliable, and it's clean. And so the fossil fuel industry is spending billions and billions of dollars to get the fossil fuels clean. And guess what? They're succeeding. They're, in my opinion, I represent Carbon County, I represent the basin, which is oil and gas, and one of the favorite things to tell them is you're not the problem, you're actually part of the solution. And I believe in the year 2050 we'll be burning fossil fuels, and there will be net zero emissions because of innovations in technology. And by the way, nobody can chart a course to 2050 that doesn't use fossil fuels. There's not enough energy, right? And nuclear as well, we've got to do more with nuclear, and I'm working on that. So the 4th category is energy policy, climate policy, and all those things that are really, really important for Utah. And so some of that encapsulates some of the things that are important to you, but I know you've got some other priorities beyond that. But I think if you think about public lands, infrastructure for energy and supporting that, what's happening over at the mine, is also all related to this, because that copper is essential to the new energy future, and critical minerals that are part of that energy future.
We're excited about the mine. They're going great guns. They're actually started mining now, again, instead of just processing the tailings. But
They were in my office a few weeks ago, and I think gave me an update. I'm excited to go out there today and see it. But they walked out, and I said to my team, like, okay, tell me what I'm missing. This is too good to be true. Like, where is this is so good, right? Like, the jobs, everything that's coming from this is like super good.
I think, on the mine standpoint, you have the right personnel and management in there that's probably gonna make it work, it seems like. I think it's always been there, just hasn't been.
yeah, the deposits have been there. It's just, we've had investors, we have not had mining people in charge. So now there's actually mining people that have proven mining history and knowledge and skills coming from other countries, and they're so excited to actually be close to a town. Like they've never, I think, that's what's really funny, you know, to hear them talk about it. All of the partners, I actually got them in with the governor the other day, because they've been trying to meet him for over a year, and getting really frustrated because, so I got them in there, and we had, somebody from Vienna, so Nandi was from Vienna, James was from London, the other guy's from Dubai, Roger came in from California. Anyway, there was 5 of them there, and I think they were on their way to DC to see you, or had just come, I can't remember, I think they were on their way, but, they're all like mining, and they're also investors, but they have the mines in Africa and that, and I think the one in Africa, like, they're a couple hundred miles from any kind of civilization, so they're really excited.
I'd say a real compliment to Beaver County is one of the things they share with me is how much they love the workforce here. Ethic here, the culture here, is really exciting to them. And part of that is the receptivity. You know, a lot of these places they go to, and they spend all their time fighting,
Right.
the government, instead of the government just open the doors and say, yep, love what you're doing, we love jobs, we're gonna make this as easy as we can for you, and they do that all the time.
Well, we had 3 or 4 different ownerships out there, they all have the same assets to work with, and this is the team that's actually, they're moving product and doing good things, so we're happy to have it.
Well, there's huge investments. I mean, some of the prior owners have done all of the investment necessary, but I think they were fighting amongst themselves, and they couldn't just make the business model work. So then they were, you know, declaring bankruptcy and mad at each other, and they were fighting each other more than anybody else, you know. But these guys are a bunch of friends, been friends for 20 years, and they want to make it work. I mean, they're excited, and I told them, and we all told them when they came in, they said, everybody here is very gun shy and very cautious over, you know,
Yeah.
plan a future with you guys.
Yeah, we've been
because
here
everybody
before,
else has been
right.
so flaky.
Yeah,
These guys have been great to work
that's
with.
fantastic, yeah.
Let me ask you a question about the energy policy. So, the government generally gives a lot of incentives for these energy companies to come in. Then they'll come to us and ask for those additional credits. And sometimes we do give them, but then we get some pushback from our constituents, who are like, why are they getting a tax break and we're not, and so I don't know, I mean, 'cause I don't, on the federal side, that's good, but how do we kind of manage those things together? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll put my mayor's hat on, because I had to deal with the same
I'm sure you do.
issue. Who do you incentivize to come in, how much? And for me, and I probably for you too, the question is always, well, if we don't, what happens? Right, and so, it is a little bit sometimes of a game where they're jockeying and saying, well, if you don't do this, we won't come in, and that's, I think, your kind of a hard thing that you have to discern is, right, like, how serious this is, but at the end of the day, I think if you're able to look the community in the eye and say, look, you know, this is what we got out of this, we got the jobs, we got this much tax revenue that we wouldn't have had before, we had this and this and this, and we had to give up this, which is a small portion that came in for this, then I think that's the litmus test. I will say, you're welcome, and we probably should have a little bit more coordination, because I can give you kind of from a federal perspective exactly what they're getting and where they're going, what kind of deals they're getting in other places, right? If we think we can work together. One of the things that's happening right now, going back to this budget, is there's a lot of pressure on the incentives that the federal government is offering. And some of those are under review right now, and some of them will survive and some of them won't survive.
Is that mostly energy, or is that?
Well, if you go back to the IRA, those are the ones that are most vulnerable. But I also will tell you that it's not as clean cut for us, just like it's not for you. Like if we take those out, what doesn't happen? And what revenue doesn't come into the government if we take those out? I also feel like we do have to give some stability. So if we started a policy and a company, like let's just say the one coming here, made billions of dollars in investment, and then we pull out the rug on them, that's not a good way to govern either. And so we have to be a little bit measured. Maybe we wouldn't have done it to begin with, but now corporations have made bets based upon what we told them the conditions were, how do we pull that rug out, from underneath them? Quite frankly, and that would, very likely impact what's going on over here. So I'm very careful, with changing directions once we've set a direction.
Okay. Other questions?
My turn?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure John's ready for my list.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Well, I have another one. I mean,
Go ahead,
obviously,
go ahead.
housing is a concern. I know
Yes.
that's not under your
No, let's talk about that.
list, but I do think it's, I mean, we have jobs or, companies coming here, but there's still no infrastructure. And I don't know if that's because we cut out some of the red tape or allow, I don't know how that works per se, but we saw a significant housing shortage, and cost is a big concern, because, I mean, frankly, I have a son and a daughter-in-law who are here, they're married, have a kid, and they're both working jobs, but there's just no way they can afford a house in Beaver, which is really very unfortunate.
Yeah,
Crazy.
what happened, right?
Yeah, what happened? I mean, I
Yeah.
know, I mean, so,
I'll
we don't want the government to fix the problem, but we need to figure out a
Yeah.
solution some way.
So I have a son-in-law and a daughter who are living above my garage. And he just finished his he's an anesthesiologist, and he's living above my garage. And it's because, like, well, what happened? And what happened is huge, all over the state, this increase in price of homes, that it's just taken it out of our youth's, ability to buy them. So I kind of tend to look at this as, okay, what can cities do, what can counties do, what can the state do, and what can the federal government do? So from my perspective, a couple of things. One bill that I'm very excited about is a bill that I have. If you think about how many of your people actually have an IRA, it's probably quite a few. But that money is locked out until they reach a certain age where they can start taking it out in little portions. So that will be really nice. But what about that huge asset they have that's just sitting there? So already under current law, there is a provision that's called a self-directed IRA, where they can take that money out and buy real estate. Well, guess what? We prohibit them from buying real estate for themselves and their kids. So my bill simply takes away that prohibition. So your constituents that have money in the IRA would actually be able to keep it in the IRA, not lose any of the tax benefit for being in an IRA, but draw on it, buy some real estate, whether it's for themselves or for their kids. Instead of, because what they're doing right now, they're taking out a second mortgage to help their kids, and that's no good. And so this would actually let them pay themselves interest within the IRA. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And keep all the tax benefits of the IRA. And across the country, there's $7 trillion of IRA money that it would unlock and let parents, either for themselves or for their children, help in a way that doesn't hurt them or their retirement. And so that's, I think, a really good example of creative thinking. One tiny piece, and it doesn't solve the problem, it's a tiny piece of the problem. Mike Lee, Senator Lee, has a bill that's called the Homes Act. Maybe Mike lines the houses and chooses the homes. You can see why there's those two.
Yeah.
Well, that would allow building on federal land.
Right.
And I think President Trump was kind of lit on fire with this as well. He's talked about 1 million acres across the country that could be used for this. As you all well know, we don't want to build homes under the Arches National Park, but there's millions of acres of sagebrush, right, that would be very appropriate to build on it. And that's, I think, a really good example, Senator Lee's bill. And those are a couple of things that we're working on at the federal level. I also think the state, like I said, the state's got responsibility in this. You all have a city, everybody does. A lot of yours comes down to zoning. But I know a number of cities in the state, no matter how you zone, you just don't have the land because you're surrounded.
You're landlocked.
You're landlocked. So those are a couple of things we're working on, and I think are really important, and that we all need to kind of come together and figure this out. And it's great to have my kids close by, live over the garage, but long term they don't want to stay there.
No.
Doesn't work long
It's not
term.
healthy for anybody, is it?
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's critical, that we keep the communication open from the local, state, and federal.
Sure.
And sometimes we're not very good at doing that. We're not coordinating those efforts. And so I think it'd be helpful for something like what you're doing, because I'm very active in the National Association of Counties, and then the western region of the National Association, and then, you know, on the state and county level. I mean, those kind of things, just because you do that there, doesn't mean you can implement it here, right? So there needs to be that coordination effort. I really appreciate that you, I gotta be politically correct.
It is a public meeting.
First time ever. I found a meme for myself the other day during the legislature. In fact, I was actually in Washington DC, and I kind of laughed because I've always said me and President Trump have a lot in common because we usually both have our foot in our mouth at some point in time. But this meme says, "I never think before I speak. I want to be just as surprised as everybody else." But honestly, I think coordination efforts and just trying to have a plan and coordinating those plans. But I really appreciate you working with Celeste. And here, I'm sorry, we're on a first name basis. Please don't call me Commissioner. I'm going to call you John when I text you and whatever else, you know.
That is my name.
Yeah, I know. Some people get offended, and some people try to be all politically correct.
Well, I'll call you Commissioner when you're sitting up here in the chairs, and then when we go on, I'll call you Ted.
But, you know, public lands, of course, is my biggest priority.
Yeah.
Our county is 87% public lands. And, you know, which is not that big a deal when you compare it to Wayne County and Garfield and those guys who only have, yeah, they're 97% or 98%. And, but we've got some big things with public lands coming down. In our county specifically, that, solar plan that the Biden administration put out there, that's gonna take out half of our county. If they're allowed to follow up on putting solar on BLM land out there.
Yeah, so that's the BLM rule that you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you talk about it when I walk out. I'm
No,
sorry, I'm trying to
no,
get
we
over
didn't.
bronchitis and pneumonia, and once I start coughing, there's no quitting. So I had to walk out, but, anyway, that solar,
Yeah, can I give you an update on the
Yes.
BLM rules? So before the election, when I was in natural resources in the House, I had a bill, I got it through the House to repeal that rule. That was when Chuck Schumer was in charge of the Senate, so we could get it through there. But I would tell you, your delegation is all over this. And this is another example where, okay, for 4 years, you don't have to worry.
Right.
But if we don't fix it
We gotta get it
legislatively,
Be right back.
it'll go right back, yeah.
well, and we're huge on, you know, any kind of power, right? But we need to focus on base load power, because I have a ton of solar on my own property. And in Beaver County, we have a lot of solar, we got a lot of wind, but we've allowed that and encouraged it to be on private land, not on federal, because then you're not interfering, and this is what drives me nuts about the solar deal, is you'll eliminate every other multiple use.
Sure, yeah.
There is no longer multiple.
Yes,
for
grazing,
sure.
wildlife, wild horses, sage grouse, recreation, hunting, you know, whatever, all of those things are gone if you put solar in. And so, and it's not reliable power. I mean, at the best, you got, what, 8 or 9 hours a day?
Yeah.
And that's still intermittent power, it's not dependable, and so I 100% agree with you that I think there's no way that we're ever gonna shut the switch off on coal. And, you know, those kind of power sources. The other thing that you know, some of the things are all the road closures on public lands.
Yeah.
You know, Forest Service and BLM are always closing roads, and there doesn't seem to be much, you know, and that ties in with the RS-2477, the lawsuit, and, I wish there was an easier way that we could figure the solution out to RS-2477 instead of being locked in we've already been in there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or, well, actually longer than that. I think it was 1976 when they came through with FLIPMA that changed the rule designation on those.
I remember 1976.
I was 16,
I know.
but But, anyway,
Thank you.
so,
They'll have to go down that memory lane.
yeah, you guys weren't even a twinkle.
Well, I was a twinkle, but.
So the RS 2477 and then the road closures. And then along with your housing, are you talking about, the same sort of thing of using federal lands? Because there are a lot of landlocked parcels and a lot of parcels that are like really close to every community, every town in the West. And those are the kind of things that, you know, they're not tied to grazing, they're really not tied to any other kind of multiple use. Those should be, like, even if there was a buffer zone around city limits and those kind of things, or designation, or designated housing developments, if those are, that, to me, that's kind of low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, so Senator Lee's bill is targeted specifically at that, and President Trump really, as far as I know, hasn't really put any meat on the bones when he says 1 million acres.
Right.
But I think as we start putting meat on those bones, Utah is in the perfect position for exactly what you said. And what we're targeting is land that doesn't have, you know, strong cultural ties, it doesn't have strong recreational ties.
The Red Rock areas.
Yeah, we're talking about the sagebrush, right?
Right, right.
And areas that really serve no purpose.
Right.
And by locking those up in federal lands, and the 87%, imagine, I'd love to say back in DC, can you imagine running a county, you all can, when you don't have control over 87% of your land, and it pays a fraction of what property taxes would pay, and they want to take away your ability to make a living on that land, whether it's grazing or other things. And that's where we just have to push back.
That's one of the messages that we do with the National Association of Counties. I can't remember how many counties there are. I kind of laughed, President Trump said it the other day, and I'm like, yeah, we meet with those on the National Association, you know, and there's two different committees that I serve in leadership on, and one's the Rural Action Caucus. So you've got all the rural counties nationwide, and I think we've got like close to 3,000 or 4,000 counties that are a member of that committee, and we talk to them. They're the only ones that understand what rural means, but only 15 states understand what a public lands county is, and what that comparison is between, you know, your taxable value of acreage in your land and how to manage that. And so it's been really eye-opening for these people when they come in and they talk about public lands. They have no idea the concept, for one thing. Most of them are 100% private property, other than a park or something here
Yeah,
and
you're
there.
here, in public lands, you see that park over there, that's 30 acres, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
30 acres, yeah, so they don't get any of that. Is there any chance whatsoever, and I know we're running short on time.
I got it.
Mr. Chairman, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry, I got
yeah.
it wrong.
No, and you're off to a good cause, enjoy that,
Thanks for
yeah,
making the time to stop.
of course, we'll be back, yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right, we'll see you.
See ya.
Is there any chance of, because it's gotta be a congressional thing, of getting rid of the wilderness study areas? And you can be honest with me.
No, it's really, really difficult, and where we've had success is in trading out, different places. I think everybody knows, for all intents and purposes, one-to-one study. Now, I will tell you, this is where somebody is just really well positioned. Yeah, there's hope, and he's in the right place to do it, and particularly doing the Antiquities Act, taking that away as a tool. I don't know anybody that's better positioned than Senator Lee to do that, and I want to be wind at his back and help him. And so I think there's hope, but boy, those things are entrenched and very, very difficult.
I know, okay, last thing. I know we're cutting the budget. You know how to save a whole bunch of money? I bet you have no idea what I'm gonna talk about next week.
I'm bated breath. I'm listening.
We got wild horses out of
Yeah.
long-term holdings.
We had that conversation on the way down here, and.
I mean, it's a controversial thing, but I stop and look at that, and that's another one. I serve on the BLM's National Advisory Board, you know, and I've been quoted all over, and I've got hate mail from everywhere, but, you know.
My courses.
Yeah, because I hate horses, and which
Yeah.
can be further from the truth, but, I don't understand why we can fund horses forever until you actually have to put them down because they're too old or crippled and they're gonna die anyway. And we can't do that for our veterans and our homeless and, you know, that, but we're wasting so much money on that. That we can't even.
It's just math.
And it's just math, and you're not spending the money, you know, our holding facilities are full. We're spending all of our money there, so we can't even afford to manage the horses that are on the range, that are 3 times what they should be.
Yeah.
So right now, it's a budget, and they double in size. The math, like the population, they will double every 4 years if they're not managed on the ground.
I totally get it, and as you know, the answer has been elusive, the different sides.
Right.
I know Congressman Stewart spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah. Took a lot of bullets for me, he said.
Yeah, and so it's kind of taken up where he let off. We're, to be honest, we're kind of looking to her for the lead, and happy to support her, and happy to even to take some of that lead. We've got to, it's got to find an answer, because nobody's winning right now. Certainly the animals are not winning.
And the scary part about it is there's not gonna be anything left on the ground for all the little critters.
Yeah.
Like, heck, you know, if you don't even talk about the horses or the cows or any of the other stuff, the biggest impacts are your stage ground,
Destroy the soil, yeah.
destroy the resources out for everything.
Yeah, totally agree. And then at times of year, as you know, you drive down and you'll see their ribs, and
Oh, yeah.
we're just not being fair to them either.
No,
True.
well,
All right, we're partners on it, we're looking for that elusive answer, and we'll keep working.
well, we appreciate your time here and your effort getting to know us, and hopefully somebody's got our contact information, you can send us all of you guys'
Yeah, for sure.
and,
Commissioner, did she ask all your questions?
She asked most of them, one we didn't cover, so
Okay.
if you've got time,
Sure.
tackle one more.
My only commitment is with you all, so.
Okay, we'll be quick.
No, we're good.
You just tell us what we want to hear and then.
Okay, yeah.
So the death tax.
Yes.
It's something that affects our families with ranching, and, you know, I've watched some of, my friends, they have to pay for these farms, and we're in that same boat, where you have to pay for them 2 or 3 times, and then, you know, you get them all paid for, parents pass away, you can't afford to buy out your siblings and pay the death tax, so you get to finance it and pay for it one more time.
Yeah.
It's just, it needs to be repealed or set at a high enough threshold that it's not gonna affect the family farms, because we're dropping out anyway. So,
Yeah.
whatever you can help us.
So, one of my favorite votes of all time when I arrived in Congress in fall of 2017 was the tax reform that doubled that. And in my mind, it's $10 or $11 million, I think is what we doubled it to. And right now, the major topic is what are we going to do with the tax cuts that are set to expire, including that one. And I can tell you that no one on the Republican side, not to be partisan, nor both meaning, wants to undo that. And I think if we're honest, very, very few on the other side do, but they want to come after it because it was a President Trump initiative.
right.
Just like Republicans go after Affordable Care Act because it wasn't ours. Does that make sense?
Right.
That's part of what
Easy
happened.
target.
Yeah, it's easy target. So what we're struggling with is all the impacts of that tax cut back in 2017. What impact does that have on the deficit? And how do we keep those in place and not impact the deficit? So we're trying to find offsetting cuts to make for that. But I can tell you, the Republicans are not going to let those expire. It's just too important to us. It's huge. I think one of the undiscussed things about the election, the way it turned out, is had it not turned out the way it did, all those things would have been set to expire, and you don't know which ones that they would have hung on to. I think anybody who does not support keeping the death tax out has not had a family business or a family farm, and understands it's not about avoiding taxes, it's about, well, how do you pass the family farm from generation to generation if every time the generation passes away, you have to pay all the appreciation that's happened? You don't realize a penny of that appreciation, because you're not selling the land, so you don't get a penny of the appreciation, but now you have to pay tax on it every generation. You would totally destroy. And it's the same with every family business. It's not just the farms, it's every family. There's a lot of things like that. And the inability to pass on to your kids what is most American, and that is that land is yours. And so, yes, I totally support it. I'm not going to say, don't worry, but you are in a position where all of us want to preserve and protect that, and really go to the mat to do that.
Thank you.
Okay,
By the way, we want to make it permanent. That's our goal, so you don't have to worry
That
about
would
it
be nice.
expiring.
It's like all the other things.
Yeah.
It's mentioned, so we know what that
Take
is.
it off the table, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great.
so do you have any asks of us?
Yeah. Dude, right? Keep being amazing. No, look,
Right.
yeah. Having been a mayor, I get that everything important happens on the local level. Yeah, but I mean, the hard work, right? You balance your budgets, right?
That's her job.
Yeah, but that's not, like, you make hard decisions, right, about what you can do and what you can't do. And you see people, you at the soccer field and in the grocery store. That's why I think local government is so responsive. You're so close to the people that you serve. So just keep on keeping on, that's my ask, and keep the connection and communication, letting us know what's on your mind, how we can be helpful. Give Jeff tons of work to do.
And Jeff's been great, I have to say, he's been really, really good. And he asks us for asks, so I appreciate that.
Good.
Trying to get it ready. He's really been great.
I'm not surprised at all.
That's right. Just confirming our file.
Geographically, you make it really easy for us to come see you.
We're right on,
Yeah, I can't say where I've been the most, but if it's not here, it's pretty close to it. And it's because we love you, but you're
well,
also
you've been
so
to
easy
about
to come
everything,
see.
you've been to our conventions and
Yeah.
our fairs.
This will actually be my
So-
second trip out to the mine.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
yeah. Good,
Realize, I don't know if he realized how much mileage you're gonna put on his car.
Just don't buy a Tesla.
We fought some snowstorms to come down here today.
I'll bet you did.
It's interesting, as you know, having driven a lot, we got into like snow-covered roads, then rain, and then sleet, and then snow-covered, it just kept circulating all over.
We came last, I think wasn't it last year that we had the big snow, the big blizzard that shut the freeway down, and I shouldn't say this Tesla, it's just all the EV vehicles. So there's a big charging station out here on the south end. It shut down Beaver City Power.
Oh, interesting.
When they were all in there, and then it shut everything down. I don't know how long it's
So-
going to get going again.
This is kind of one of the interesting things about EVs that a lot of people don't realize is, are you on Rocky Mountain here?
Partially, but it's the hydro plant.
Okay.
Is
But
what-
if you have charging stations there, what people don't realize is you have to have capacity for them all the time, which
Right.
means that you have power sometimes you don't use because you don't know when there's going to be a vehicle at every station there. And so it's not like, okay, it's easy to put 4 stations out there. No, that means you're committing to being able to charge 4 vehicles 24/7 all the time.
Right, well, now I think there's 20,
Yeah.
Or the
24,
20,
I can't, at least,
They
24.
got like a few full rows and then there's partial in front.
Yeah, they just built one.
So I'm curious, just from the way the county views that, is there much economic benefit of stopping and buying a mill?
Well, all the businesses are, yeah, because they gotta plug in and then they gotta go somewhere, right? So they just put
Got 30 minutes.
a Beaver brew, and there's the Dairy Queen, and the Chevron station, and the Timber Lane, and there's a hotel. So that side of the freeway is doing pretty good. It was smart, it was a good investment.
Yeah, just convince them to slow that charge down another 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, if the other businesses got a hold of it, you could provide taxi service to the other.
Burger joint.
Yeah. There you go, Kevin, that's your part-time job. After hours.
I don't know if we have a minute, I know you got some guests, I'm happy to answer any questions that they might
Well,
have.
we'll let any of these guys, Kevin Wicker's our public lands guy and our GIS, he's kind of our man with many hats, we've always thrown him in the fire somewhere.
Hey, Kevin.
You've already addressed most of my heartburn issues, but there was one or maybe two I want to bring up. The Endangered Species Act causes us a lot of grief. Just as an example, we got wolves all over Canada, all over Alaska, but yet they're considered an endangered species here. That's ludicrous. The other thing I would mention is the EJA, the Equal Access to Justice Act, which is basically paying our enemies to file lawsuits against us all the time. I think that needs to be fixed.
Done, got it.
No argument here.
No argument here, yeah.
I wish it was that easy. How can we really have that EJA deal?
So, we, like, I think Lori jumped in so quickly, we've seen that right over in CD3. And, it's a good challenge, good question. Let's dig into it a little bit more, and you have Jeff's contact information, you two ought to have, let's make sure that you guys are staying in touch. And,
You got a card on you, Jeff?
Lori, do I have card?
We
have cards. Very
We
good.
just got them.
Yeah.
Here's mine in the
I
meantime.
will tell you, one of the most frustrating things my team's ever done is deal with the bureaucracy of the transition. Lori just got her phone in our
Oh, when you
state
went into the
offices.
Senate?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got everything on my personal phone, and then I get a Senate phone, and so I have both phones, because I had this one for 6 months before I finally got the Senate phone, so answering both of them.
I can't do two phones.
We won't bore you with those details.
How about you guys?
About both of those things.
You don't have any questions for the senator? Come on, you're supposed to do these deep dive questions.
Are you native to Beaver?
She is. I've been here, 7 years?
Now, not a lot of people come to council meetings.
I love it.
They're our faithful.
Is that right?
Yeah, about 3 years. I think we've missed maybe 2.
Just enjoy knowing what's going on, and, yeah, it's very good for you.
Well, not only what's going on, but it's always amazed me as to how much work goes on
Yeah.
behind the scenes that I was never aware of.
And, yeah, I bet your commissioners wish more people came.
Yeah.
We do.
And usually they come when they're mad.
And they bring pitchforks.
Yeah, but to your point, if they knew what went into those decisions along the way, and quite frankly, they want to complain once the decisions have already been made and they weren't here while they were making the decisions where they most needed their input. So thank you for coming.
I have one controversial thing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's anything that you can, I mean, I'm sure you would get the ask, but we had a neighbor file water rights in our county, and one.
A neighboring county.
Neighboring county, and so there's gonna be there's a lot of issues with that we're really struggling with, because we understand what the impacts are going to be our neighbors and our people that are here, but there doesn't seem to be any mitigation efforts, so somewhere down the road, I don't know, BLM's still thinking about it, but does the big dog always win?
I've heard of the lawsuit, I don't know enough about it to dare comment, especially in a public meeting.
I'm just
But yeah,
letting you know.
okay, good to know.
Make sure you have very good water.
They're hard to come by.
Yeah, they're
They're very expensive too. too.
Well, that's the problem, because we're the little dog,
Yeah,
you know, we don't have the money to fight.
And we already paid it.
And we
County
paid
to the south.
Legal fees.
Well, we could talk about that. You can always suggest mediation, that's cheaper.
Nobody wants to mediate,
I think we still lose.
yeah, either way, we still lose, that's the problem.
Maybe we lose anyway, I don't know.
Well, thanks for hosting us today.
Well, it's all, we're always excited to
Yeah,
have you in
well,
town.
you're not done with this, we're here for a little bit longer for the day.
Okay.
Looking forward to getting to know people better around town.
So, I don't know what the agenda is, but
We're going to lunch.
we're going to. Oh.